If you don't take control of your 24 hours, someone else will gladly do it for you. I want to share something that completely changed how I think about time. A few years ago, I met a guy named Kevin at a business conference. Kevin ran 3 companies, wrote 2 books, exercised every morning, and still managed to have dinner with his family almost every night. Meanwhile, I was struggling to finish one project while constantly feeling overwhelmed and exhausted. So I asked him directly, Kevin, how do you do it? How do you fit so much into the same 24 hours that I have? He smiled and said something I will never forget. He said, Fan Dung, the difference between us is not the hours. The difference is that I treat every hour like it cost me $1,000. Would you spend $1,000 scrolling through your phone for an hour? Would you spend $1,000 attending a meeting that could have been an email? When you start seeing time as money, real money, you stop wasting it on things that give you nothing back. That conversation hit me hard because I realized I had been treating time like it was infinite, like there would always be more tomorrow, like I could always start fresh next week or next month or next year. But time does not work that way. Time is the only resource you cannot earn back once it is gone. Today, I want to walk you through a complete framework for mastering your 24 hours. This is not about productivity hacks or tricks to squeeze more tasks into your day. This is about fundamentally changing your relationship with time so that every hour you spend moves you closer to the person you want to become. Let me start with a question that might make you uncomfortable. If I looked at how you spent the last week, would your actions match your goals? Would I be able to tell what you care about by looking at your calendar? For most people, the honest answer is no. We say we want to be healthier, but we do not exercise. We say we want to learn new skills, but we spend our evenings watching television. We say we want better relationships, but we scroll through our phones while our families are sitting right next to us. This gap between what we say we want and what we actually do is where most of our frustration comes from. We feel stuck because our actions do not align with our intentions. And the reason for this misalignment is almost always the same. We have not learned how to protect our time from the endless demands competing for our attention. I remember reading about a study that tracked how people actually spend their time versus how they think they spend their time. The results were shocking. People consistently overestimated how much time they spent on productive activities and underestimated how much time they spent on distractions. Someone who thought they worked 8 hours a day was actually only doing focused work for about 3 hours. The rest was meetings, interruptions, email, and what researchers politely called task switching, which is really just a fancy way of saying getting distracted. This is why feeling busy and being productive are completely different things. You can feel exhausted at the end of the day without having accomplished anything meaningful. You can fill every minute with activity and still go to bed with that hollow feeling that you could have done more. So how do we break this cycle? How do we start using our time in a way that actually moves us forward? The first thing you need to understand is the difference between being reactive and being proactive. Most people live their lives in reactive mode. They wake up and immediately check their phones to see what the world wants from them. They go to work and respond to whatever shows up in their inbox. They come home and react to whatever is on television or whatever their family members need. Their entire day is spent responding to external demands. Proactive people are different. They wake up with a clear intention for what they want to accomplish. They protect time for their most important work before anyone else can claim it. They make decisions based on their goals rather than whatever feels urgent in the moment. The difference is not willpower or discipline. The difference is having a system that puts you in control rather than letting circumstances control you. Let me tell you about my friend Zhang Wei. Zhang Wei is a software engineer who always complained about not having enough time to work on his own projects. He had dozens of ideas for apps he wanted to build, but he never seemed to make progress on any of them. He worked long hours at his job, and by the time he got home, he was too tired to do anything except watch videos and go to sleep. One day I challenged him to try an experiment. For just 2 weeks, I wanted him to wake up 1 hour earlier and spend that hour working on his personal project before doing anything else. No checking email, no looking at messages, just 1 hour of focused work on something that mattered to him. He resisted at first. He said he was not a morning person. He said he needed that extra hour of sleep. He said it would not make a difference anyway, but he tried it, and something remarkable happened. In those 2 weeks, Zhang Wei made more progress on his app than he had in the previous 6 months. Not because he had more time. He actually had the same amount of time, but because he was using his best hours for his most important work, instead of giving his best hours to other people's priorities and leaving only his exhausted evening hours for himself. This is what I call the principle of first things first. Your energy and focus are not constant throughout the day. They fluctuate. For most people, the first few hours after waking up are when their minds are sharpest and their willpower is strongest. This is when you should be doing your most important work, not checking social media or attending routine meetings. Think about what you typically do in your first hour of the day. If you are like most people, you probably reach for your phone before your feet even touch the floor. You check messages, scroll through news, look at social media. By the time you actually start working, you have already depleted a significant portion of your mental energy on things that gave you nothing in return. What if you protected that first hour? What if you treated it like sacred time that could not be touched by anyone or anything except your most important work? I have a friend who is a successful writer. She has published 8 books while also working a full-time job and raising 2 children. When I asked her how she does it, she told me her secret. She writes every morning from 5 to 7 before anyone else in her house is awake. During those 2 hours, her phone is in another room, her email is closed, and her door is shut. Nothing is allowed to interrupt her. She said those 2 hours are more productive than the rest of her day combined, because in those 2 hours, she is completely focused. No interruptions, no distractions, no competing demands, just her and the page. This brings me to my next point, which is about the true cost of interruptions. Most people vastly underestimate how much damage interruptions do to their productivity. Research shows that after an interruption, it takes an average of 23 minutes to fully return to the original task. Think about that. Every time you stop what you are doing to check a notification, answer a message, or respond to a colleague's question, you are not just losing the time of the interruption itself, you are losing an additional 23 minutes of recovery time. Now think about how many times you get interrupted in a typical day. If you are interrupted just 10 times, you are losing nearly 4 hours of productive time. Not because you were doing nothing during those 4 hours, but because your brain was constantly shifting gears and never getting into that deep focus state where real work happens. This is why protecting your time is not selfish. It is essential. If you do not create boundaries around your time, you will never accomplish anything significant. You will spend your life putting out other people's fires while your own dreams slowly die from neglect. I want to share a concept that changed how I think about this. It comes from a book about decision-making, and it is called The Difference Between Urgent and Important. Urgent things demand your attention right now. They feel pressing. They create anxiety if you ignore them. Important things contribute to your long-term goals and values. They matter for your future, but they rarely feel urgent. Here is the problem. Urgent things tend to crowd out important things. Your inbox is full of urgent emails that need responses. Your phone is full of urgent notifications that demand your attention. Your colleagues have urgent questions that cannot wait. But most of these urgent things are not actually important. They feel pressing in the moment, but they do not move you closer to your goals. Meanwhile, the truly important things, like exercising, like learning new skills, like spending quality time with your family, like working on that project you have been putting off, these things rarely feel urgent. There is no deadline forcing you to go to the gym, no notification reminding you to read a book, no alarm telling you to have a meaningful conversation with your spouse. So the important things keep getting pushed to tomorrow, and tomorrow never comes, because there is always something urgent demanding your attention today. The solution is to schedule your important activities first and treat those appointments as non-negotiable. Put your exercise time on your calendar and protect it like you would protect a meeting with your most important client. Block time for focused work and do not let anyone interrupt it. Schedule time with your family and treat it as seriously as you would treat a business commitment. This might feel uncomfortable at first. You might worry that people will think you are unavailable or unhelpful. But here is what I have learned. People respect boundaries. When you consistently protect your time for important work, people stop expecting you to be available for every minor request. They find other solutions. They handle things themselves. And your productivity skyrockets because you are finally spending your time on things that matter. Let me tell you about another trap that steals time from millions of people every day. It is called the completion trap. This is when you start many things, but finish very few. You begin a book, but never reach the end. You start a project, but abandon it halfway through. You make plans, but never follow through. Every incomplete task takes up mental space. It nags at you. It creates a low-level anxiety that drains your energy even when you are not actively thinking about it. Psychologists call this the Zeigarnik effect. Your brain remembers incomplete tasks better than completed ones because it keeps them active in your memory, waiting for resolution. This is why finishing things feels so good. When you complete a task, your brain can finally let it go. You get a little burst of satisfaction and relief. That mental bandwidth is freed up for other things. You feel lighter, more capable, more confident. But when you have dozens of incomplete tasks floating around in your head, you feel heavy, scattered, and overwhelmed. You might be physically resting, but your mind is still working, still worrying, still trying to keep track of everything you have not done. The solution is simple but not easy. Finish what you start before moving on to something new. This requires discipline because starting new things is exciting, while finishing old things is often tedious. The beginning of a project is full of possibility and hope. The middle is where you encounter obstacles and frustrations. The end requires pushing through even when the excitement has faded. But the ability to finish is what separates people who accomplish things from people who just dream about them. Anyone can start. Finishing is rare. I have a rule that has helped me enormously. I call it the one project rule. At any given time, I have one major project that gets my primary attention. I do not start a new project until the current one is complete. This forces me to push through the difficult middle part instead of abandoning ship when things get hard. It ensures that I actually produce finished work instead of accumulating a graveyard of half-completed ideas. This does not mean I only do one thing. I still have my regular responsibilities, my daily tasks, my ongoing commitments, but I have one big project that gets protected time every day until it is done. That project moves forward regardless of what else is happening. And when it is finished, I get to experience that satisfaction of completion before choosing my next project. Now I want to talk about something that might be the single biggest time thief in modern life. I am talking about screens, phones, tablets, computers, televisions. These devices have transformed our lives in incredible ways, but they have also created an attention crisis that is destroying our ability to focus, think deeply, and use our time well. The average person now spends over 4 hours a day on their phone alone. That does not include time spent on computers for work, watching television, or using other devices. 4 hours a day, that is 28 hours a week, over 1,400 hours a year. If you assume an 80-year lifespan with 60 years of smartphone use, that is 84,000 hours. Nearly 10 years of your life spent staring at a small screen. What are we doing during all that time? For most people, the honest answer is not much of anything. We scroll through social media feeds that make us feel bad about ourselves. We watch videos that entertain us for a moment and then vanish from memory. We check email compulsively, even though most of it is not important. We play games that give us a sense of accomplishment without actually accomplishing anything. This is not an accident. These apps and platforms are designed by some of the smartest engineers in the world specifically to capture and hold your attention. They use variable rewards, social validation, infinite scrolling, and dozens of other psychological tricks to make their products as addictive as possible. Your attention is their product, and they are selling it to advertisers. I am not saying technology is evil or that you should throw away your phone. Technology is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used well or poorly. The question is whether you are using technology for your purposes or whether technology is using you for its purposes. Here is a test. Can you put your phone down for an hour without feeling anxious? Can you sit in a waiting room without reaching for your device? Can you have a meal with your family without checking notifications? If the answer is no, then your relationship with technology has become unhealthy. The tool has become the master. The solution is intentionality. Instead of using your phone mindlessly, use it purposefully. Instead of picking it up out of habit, pick it up when you have a specific reason. Instead of letting notifications dictate your attention, turn off everything except what truly matters. I implemented a simple rule that dramatically reduced my screen time. I call it the phone box rule. When I come home, my phone goes in a box by the door. It stays there until I leave again. During the hours I'm home, I am present with my family, not half present with one eye on my device. At first, this felt uncomfortable. I kept wanting to check my phone. I worried I might miss something important. But after a few weeks, I realized nothing terrible happened. The messages were still there when I checked later. The world did not collapse because I was unavailable for a few hours. And my relationships improved dramatically because I was actually paying attention to the people in front of me. This brings me to another crucial point about time management, which is the importance of energy management. You cannot manage time well if you are constantly exhausted. Your best hours are worthless if you do not have the energy to use them. This is why taking care of your physical and mental health is not separate from productivity. It is the foundation of productivity. I used to think sleep was a waste of time. I would stay up late working, telling myself I would sleep when the project was done. I thought I was being productive. In reality, I was destroying my productivity. Sleep-deprived work is slow, error-prone, and forgettable. 1 hour of well-rested work is worth 3 hours of exhausted work. The research on sleep is overwhelming. People who consistently get 7 to 8 hours of sleep are more creative, more focused, make better decisions, have better relationships, and live longer than people who cut their sleep short. Sleep is not laziness. Sleep is when your brain consolidates learning, processes emotions, and repairs itself for the next day. Exercise is similar. Many people say they do not have time to exercise, but exercise does not cost you time. It gives you time. Regular exercise increases your energy, sharpens your focus, improves your mood, and helps you sleep better. 30 minutes of exercise can make you significantly more productive for the rest of the day. You are not losing 30 minutes. You are investing 30 minutes to gain hours of better performance. The same is true for nutrition, hydration, and rest. When you take care of your body, your mind works better. When your mind works better, you accomplish more in less time. This creates a positive cycle where good health leads to high productivity, which leads to less stress, which leads to better health. I want to talk about another important concept, which is the difference between saying yes and saying no. Every time you say yes to something, you are saying no to something else. Every commitment you make takes time away from other potential commitments. This seems obvious, but most people do not think about it. We say yes because we want to be helpful. We say yes because we want to be liked. We say yes because we do not want to disappoint people. We say yes because we feel guilty saying no. But every thoughtless yes creates problems for our future selves. We end up overcommitted, overwhelmed, and unable to do anything well because we are trying to do too many things. Learning to say no is one of the most important skills you can develop. Not saying no to everything, but saying no to things that do not align with your priorities. Saying no to requests that could be handled by someone else. Saying no to commitments that would prevent you from doing your most important work. I have a friend who is a successful entrepreneur, and he has a simple rule for saying no. Before committing to anything, he asks himself, if this were happening tomorrow, would I want to do it? Most things we agree to are scheduled for some future date, and we say yes because the future feels abstract and open. But if the event were happening tomorrow, we would suddenly realize how valuable our time is and how much we do not want to spend it on that particular thing. This thought experiment helps you say no to things you would regret saying yes to. It forces you to confront the reality that your time is limited, and every commitment has a cost. Of course, you cannot say no to everything. There are obligations you must fulfill, relationships you must maintain, responsibilities you cannot avoid. But even within these constraints, you have more choice than you think. You can negotiate deadlines. You can delegate tasks. You can find more efficient ways to meet your obligations. You can set boundaries around how much of your time certain activities can consume. The goal is not to become selfish or unhelpful. The goal is to be intentional about where your time goes so that you can give your best to the things that matter most. Let me share a framework that has helped me make better decisions about my time. I call it the 4 quadrants of time. Every activity falls into one of 4 categories based on 2 dimensions: urgent versus not urgent, and important versus not important. The first quadrant is urgent and important. These are crises, deadlines, emergencies. They must be dealt with immediately. If you ignore them, bad things happen. Most people spend a lot of time here because these activities demand attention. The second quadrant is not urgent but important. These are activities that contribute to your long-term goals, your health, your relationships, your personal development. They do not have deadlines forcing you to do them, but they are essential for a good life. This is where most of your time should go, but for most people, it is the first thing to get crowded out. The third quadrant is urgent but not important. These are interruptions, some meetings, some phone calls, some emails. They feel pressing in the moment, but they do not actually contribute to your goals. This quadrant is dangerous because urgency creates the illusion of importance. The fourth quadrant is not urgent and not important. These are time wasters, mindless scrolling, excessive entertainment, busy work that accomplishes nothing. Time spent here is simply lost. The key insight is that most people spend too much time in quadrants 1, 3, and 4, and not enough time in quadrant 2. They bounce between crises and distractions, never getting to the important work that would prevent future crises and make their lives better. The solution is to proactively schedule quadrant 2 activities. Do not wait until you feel like exercising. Put it on your calendar. Do not hope you will find time for that important project. Block time for it. Do not assume quality time with your family will happen naturally. Schedule it and protect it. When you prioritize quadrant 2, something interesting happens. You have fewer crises because you are taking care of problems before they become emergencies. You feel less stress because you are investing in your health and relationships. You make more progress on your goals because you are actually spending time on them. Life becomes more proactive and less reactive. Now, I want to address something that trips up many people who are trying to improve their time management. It is the pursuit of perfection. Some people think that if they cannot do something perfectly, it is not worth doing at all. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect conditions, the perfect plan. And while they wait, time passes and nothing gets done. This is a trap. Perfectionism disguises itself as high standards, but it is really just fear dressed up in fancy clothes. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not being good enough. And this fear paralyzes people into inaction. The antidote to perfectionism is what I call the 80% rule. Do not try to make things perfect. Try to make them 80% good. That last 20% usually takes as much time as the first 80% and often does not add much value. By accepting 80%, you can accomplish far more than if you insist on perfection. This does not mean doing sloppy work. It means recognizing diminishing returns. It means shipping a good product instead of endlessly polishing a perfect one that never sees the light of day. It means writing a good book instead of spending decades on a masterpiece that never gets written. I learned this lesson the hard way. Years ago, I spent months preparing a presentation that I wanted to be absolutely perfect. I revised it dozens of times. I practiced it obsessively. I worried about every tiny detail. And when I finally delivered it, people thought it was fine. Not amazing, not life-changing, just fine. All that extra time and stress had produced only marginal improvement over what I could have delivered in a fraction of the time. Now I set time limits for tasks and deliver the best work I can within those limits. Sometimes the result is better than I expected. Sometimes it is not as good as I hoped. But work gets done, projects get completed, and I have time for other important things. Progress beats perfection every time. This connects to another important principle, which is the power of momentum. Objects in motion tend to stay in motion. Once you start making progress, it becomes easier to keep making progress. But objects at rest tend to stay at rest. The longer you delay starting, the harder it becomes to begin. This is why starting is often the hardest part. Your brain resists beginning because beginning requires energy and carries uncertainty. What if you fail? What if it is harder than you thought? What if you waste your time? These questions keep you stuck in preparation mode, researching and planning and organizing, but never actually doing. The solution is to make starting as easy as possible. Instead of committing to write a chapter, commit to write one sentence. Instead of committing to an hour-long workout, commit to putting on your workout clothes. Instead of committing to finishing a project, commit to working on it for just 5 minutes. These tiny commitments bypass your brain's resistance. They are so small that they feel unthreatening. But once you start, momentum takes over. You write one sentence and find yourself writing a paragraph. You put on your workout clothes and figure you might as well do a few exercises. You work for 5 minutes and realize it is not so bad after all. I use this technique constantly. Whenever I face a task I have been avoiding, I tell myself I just have to work on it for 5 minutes. Most of the time, I end up working much longer because getting started was the only real obstacle. Let me share something else that has transformed my relationship with time. It is the practice of reviewing how I spend my hours. Every evening, I take a few minutes to look back at my day, not to judge myself, but to learn. What went well? What did not go well? Where did my time go? What would I do differently tomorrow? This simple practice creates awareness. Without it, days blur together and patterns stay invisible. With it, you start seeing where your time actually goes versus where you think it goes. You notice the activities that drain your energy and the activities that give you energy. You spot the habits that help you and the habits that hurt you. Over time, this awareness leads to improvement. You gradually eliminate time wasters and increase time investments. You get better at predicting how long things will take. You learn what conditions help you do your best work. Small adjustments compound into major changes. I also do a weekly review every Sunday evening. I look at the week as a whole. What did I accomplish? What fell through the cracks? What deserves more attention next week? This bigger picture view helps me stay aligned with my long-term goals instead of getting lost in day-to-day busyness. The combination of daily and weekly reviews creates a feedback loop that continuously improves how I use my time. It is like having a coach who watches your performance and helps you get better, except the coach is you. Now, I want to talk about something that might seem counterintuitive. It is the importance of rest and recovery. Many people think that maximizing productivity means working all the time, squeezing every minute for output, never stopping to catch your breath. But this approach is not just unsustainable, it is counterproductive. Your brain is not a machine that can run continuously without maintenance. It needs periods of rest to consolidate learning, generate creative insights, and restore the mental resources that get depleted during focused work. When you deny yourself rest, your productivity does not stay constant, it declines. You work more hours but accomplish less per hour, ending up exhausted with little to show for it. This is why strategic rest is part of productivity, not opposed to it. Taking breaks during work sessions maintains your focus. Taking evenings off lets you return fresh the next morning. Taking vacations prevents burnout and often produces creative breakthroughs. I used to feel guilty about resting. I thought every minute not spent working was a minute wasted. But I eventually realized that rest is work. It is essential work that happens to feel like not working. When I give myself permission to truly rest, I am more effective when I return to work. The math favors rest even if my Protestant work ethic resists it. The key is distinguishing real rest from fake rest. Real rest restores your energy. It might mean sleeping, exercising, spending time in nature, engaging in meaningful conversations, pursuing hobbies you genuinely enjoy, or simply doing nothing at all. Fake rest depletes your energy while pretending to restore it. Scrolling through social media feels like relaxation, but it leaves you more tired than before. Watching television for hours numbs your mind without refreshing it. Fake rest is just another form of time wasting disguised as self-care. Learn what truly restores you and make time for it. Protect that time as seriously as you protect your work time. Your productivity depends on it. I also want to address the role of relationships in how we spend our time. The people around us have enormous influence on our behavior, our priorities, and our use of time. Spend time with people who waste their hours, and you will likely waste yours too. Spend time with people who use their time well, and you will be inspired to do the same. This is not about judging people or being elitist about who deserves your company. It is about recognizing that you become like the people you spend the most time with. Their habits rub off on you. Their standards become your standards. Their priorities shape your priorities. I am fortunate to have friends who are serious about their goals and disciplined about their time. When we get together, our conversations are meaningful. We challenge each other to grow. We share what we are learning and working on. These relationships make me better. They raise my standards. They remind me what is possible, but I also have relationships that are less constructive. People who always want to complain, people who never follow through on their commitments, people who drag conversations toward gossip and negativity. I do not cut these people out of my life, but I am careful about how much time I give them. Every hour spent in draining company is an hour not spent in energizing company. Think about your own relationships. Who lifts you up? Who pulls you down? Who inspires you to use your time well? Who encourages you to waste it? You do not need to be ruthless about this, but you should be intentional. Seek out people who make you better and limit exposure to people who make you worse. Let me share one more concept that has profoundly affected how I think about time. It is the concept of opportunity cost. Every choice you make has a cost, which is the value of the alternative you did not choose. When you spend an hour doing one thing, you are giving up the hour you could have spent doing something else. The something else you gave up is the opportunity cost. Most people do not think about opportunity cost when making decisions about their time. They focus only on the direct value of what they are doing, not the indirect cost of what they are not doing. But this is a mistake. Sometimes an activity seems worthwhile on its own terms but makes no sense when you consider what you could be doing instead. For example, suppose someone offers you a project that pays decently and seems interesting. Without considering opportunity cost, you might say yes because the project has value. But with opportunity cost in mind, you ask, what will I have to give up to do this project? Maybe you will have to give up time with your family. Maybe you will have to give up working on your own projects. Maybe you will have to give up rest and recovery. When you add up what you are giving up, the project might not be worth it after all. This is why successful people often say no to good opportunities. They know that saying yes to something good means saying no to something potentially better. They protect their time for the highest value activities and decline everything else, even if those other things have merit on their own terms. Thinking in terms of opportunity cost is difficult because the costs are invisible. You cannot see the projects you did not pursue, the relationships you did not build, the growth you did not experience. But these invisible costs are real. They accumulate over time. And if you ignore them long enough, You wake up one day wondering where your life went. I want to close with something personal. I am not naturally good at managing my time. I procrastinate. I get distracted. I sometimes lose entire hours to activities I cannot even remember afterward. The principles I have shared today are not principles I have mastered. They are principles I practice imperfectly every single day. But here is what I have learned. You do not need to be perfect to make progress. You do not need to get everything right to get better. You just need to keep trying, keep adjusting, keep showing up. The gap between who you are and who you want to be closes a little every time you make a good choice about your time. Every hour is a choice. Every day is a collection of choices. And your life is the sum of all those choices extended across years and decades. The good news is that you get to make new choices constantly. If today did not go well, tomorrow is fresh. If this hour was wasted, the next hour is available. You are never stuck. You can always begin again. But do not use this as an excuse to delay. Yes, you can always start tomorrow, but tomorrow never actually arrives. When it comes, it is called today. And today has the same opportunities and the same obstacles that today has always had. The only time you can actually act is now. So here is my challenge to you. Pick one thing from what we discussed today. Just one thing. Maybe it is protecting your first hour for important work. Maybe it is turning off your phone in the evenings. Maybe it is reviewing how you spend your time. Maybe it is finishing a project you have been putting off. Whatever it is, start it now. Not tomorrow, not next week. Now. That one change, if you stick with it, will lead to other changes. Small improvements compound. Good habits enable other good habits. Before you know it, you will look back and be amazed at how much your life has changed. Your time is your life. When you waste time, you waste life. When you master time, you master life. And mastering time does not require superhuman discipline or radical transformation. It requires making slightly better choices consistently over time. The 24 hours you have today are the same 24 hours that every successful person has ever had. The difference is not the hours. The difference is you, your choices, your priorities, your commitment to becoming the person you are capable of becoming. Choose wisely, act now, and watch your life transform, 1 hour at a time. I want to share a story that illustrates why all of this matters. There was a professor who was teaching a class on time management. She walked into the classroom carrying a large glass jar and a bag of rocks. Without saying anything, she placed the jar on the desk and began putting the large rocks into it, one by one, until no more would fit. She asked the class, "Is the jar full?" Everyone said yes. Then she pulled out a bag of pebbles and poured them into the jar. The pebbles rolled into the spaces between the large rocks. She asked again, "Is the jar full?" The students laughed nervously and said maybe not. She pulled out a bag of sand and poured it into the jar. The sand filled the spaces between the pebbles. She asked, "Now is the jar full?" The students said probably not. Finally, she poured water into the jar until it was truly full. Then she asked, "What is the lesson here?" One student raised his hand and said, "No matter how full your schedule is, you can always fit more in if you try." The professor smiled and said, "That is what most people think, but that is not the lesson. The lesson is that if you do not put the big rocks in first, you will never fit them in at all." Think about the big rocks in your life, your health, your family, your most important projects, your personal growth, your contribution to the world. These are the things that matter most. These are the things that give your life meaning. Now think about the pebbles and sand, emails, meetings, minor tasks, social media, television, errands. These things can feel urgent. They can fill your time if you let them. But they are not what your life is about. If you start your day with pebbles and sand, your jar will be full before you ever get to the big rocks. But if you put the big rocks in first, everything else can fit around them. The pebbles find spaces between the rocks. The sand fills the remaining gaps. The water seeps into whatever space is left. This is why protecting time for your priorities is so important. If you do not schedule them first, they will not happen. Other things will crowd them out. Your days will be full, but your life will feel empty. Identify your big rocks. Put them in your jar first, and let everything else fit around them. I mentioned earlier that I would share a complete framework for mastering your 24 hours. Let me bring everything together into a practical system you can start using immediately. First, identify your priorities. What are the most important areas of your life? What goals are you working toward? What would you regret not doing if you look back in 10 years? These are your big rocks. Write them down. Be specific. Vague priorities lead to vague results. Second, design your ideal day. If you had complete control over your schedule, how would you structure your time? When would you work? When would you rest? When would you exercise? When would you spend time with family? Create a template for how your day should look. Third, protect your first hours. Whatever your most important work is, do it first. Before email, before meetings, before the world starts making demands. Your best energy should go to your best work. Fourth, batch similar activities. Instead of scattering tasks throughout the day, group them together. Handle all your emails in 1 or 2 sessions rather than checking constantly. Make all your phone calls in one block. This reduces the mental cost of switching between different types of tasks. Fifth, set boundaries. Decide what you will and will not do. Decide who gets access to your time and who does not. Learn to say no to requests that do not serve your priorities. Protect your calendar like it is your most valuable asset, because it is. Sixth, eliminate distractions. Turn off notifications. Put your phone away. Create an environment that supports focus. Every time you remove a distraction, you recover time that was being stolen from you. Seventh, review and adjust. Every evening, look at how you spent your day. Every week, look at how you spent your week. What is working? What is not? What changes will you make? This feedback loop ensures continuous improvement. Eighth, rest intentionally. Schedule time for real recovery. Protect it as seriously as work time. Remember that rest is productive because it enables future productivity. This system is not complicated. The individual pieces are simple, but simple does not mean easy. Implementing this system requires changing habits you may have had for years. It requires discipline when you do not feel like being disciplined. It requires saying no when saying yes would be easier. But here is what I promise you. If you stick with this system, your life will change. You will accomplish more. You will feel less stressed. You will have more time for what matters. You will close the gap between who you are and who you want to be. Time is the ultimate equalizer. Every person gets the same 24 hours. No one can buy more. No one can save unused hours for later. What we have is what we have, and what we do with it determines everything. Most people treat time like it is infinite. They waste hours without thinking. They delay important things indefinitely. They reach the end of their lives wondering where it all went. But you do not have to be most people. You can be intentional about your time. You can protect your hours from the endless demands competing for them. You can invest your time in things that matter instead of things that merely feel urgent. You have the same 24 hours as everyone else. What makes the difference is what you do with them. Choose wisely. Start now. Your future self will thank you. Let me tell you about a concept that has helped me tremendously. It is called time blocking, and it is one of the most powerful productivity techniques I have ever encountered. The idea is simple. Instead of keeping a vague to-do list and working on whatever feels most pressing, you assign specific tasks to specific time blocks on your calendar. You do not just write down that you need to work on a project. You schedule exactly when you will work on it, for exactly how long. This seems like a small change, but it transforms how you work. When a task has a scheduled time, it is much more likely to happen. When a task is just on a list, it can be indefinitely postponed. The calendar creates commitment that a list cannot. Time blocking also forces you to be realistic about how much you can accomplish. Many people have to-do lists that would take days to complete. They feel overwhelmed because their commitments exceed their available time. But when you time block, you cannot schedule more than 24 hours of tasks in a day. You see immediately when you are overcommitted and can make adjustments. I time block my entire workday. Every hour has an assigned purpose. I know when I will do deep work, when I will handle emails, when I will take meetings, when I will exercise, when I will rest. There is no guessing, no deciding in the moment, no energy wasted on figuring out what to do next. I just follow the plan. Of course, plans do not always survive contact with reality. Unexpected things come up. Meetings run long. Tasks take more time than expected. Emergencies demand attention. When this happens, I adjust my time blocks for the rest of the day. The plan changes, but there is always a plan. The alternative to time blocking is reactive working, which is how most people spend their days. They wake up and respond to whatever seems most urgent. They jump from task to task based on how they feel. They check email whenever they get bored. They let meetings eat up their calendars because they never protected time for other things. Reactive workers feel busy but accomplish little. They are always behind because they are always responding instead of initiating. They are controlled by their circumstances rather than controlling them. Time blocking flips this dynamic. You become proactive. You decide in advance what is important and when you will do it. You protect time for your priorities before other things can claim it. You control your schedule instead of letting your schedule control you. I recommend starting with just your mornings. Block out your first few hours for your most important work. Protect that time fiercely. Let everything else be scheduled around it. Once you experience how productive protected time can be, you will want to extend time blocking to the rest of your day. Let me address something that holds many people back from using their time well. It is the fear of missing out, often called FOMO. This is the anxiety that somewhere, somehow, something interesting is happening and you are not part of it. This fear drives people to constantly check their phones, accept every invitation, and stay perpetually connected to news and social media. FOMO is exhausting. It prevents you from ever being fully present because part of your mind is always wondering what else is going on. It causes you to spread yourself thin across many shallow experiences instead of going deep into a few meaningful ones. It makes you reactive because you are always responding to what might be happening instead of focusing on what you are doing. The antidote to FOMO is something I call JOMO, the joy of missing out. This is the recognition that you cannot do everything and the peace that comes from accepting that fact. When you embrace JOMO, you stop trying to keep up with everything. You give yourself permission to be ignorant of the latest news, the latest trends, the latest drama. You focus on what is in front of you without worrying about what you might be missing. This is not easy in a culture that celebrates busyness and constant connection. People brag about how packed their schedules are. Social media shows you all the experiences you are not having. The news creates artificial urgency about events that have no bearing on your actual life. But most of what you think you are missing is not worth having. Most news is forgotten within a week. Most social media is posturing and performance. Most events and experiences are less fulfilling than they appear. The things that actually matter, deep relationships, meaningful work, personal growth, require sustained attention that FOMO makes impossible. Give yourself permission to miss out. Turn off your phone and be fully present with the people you love. Close your browser and focus completely on your work. Ignore the news and read a book instead. Let other people worry about what is happening elsewhere while you make something happen right here. The joy of missing out is the joy of living intentionally. It is the peace of knowing you are spending your time on what truly matters, regardless of what everyone else is doing. I want to share some thoughts on how to handle the inevitable setbacks in time management. No matter how good your system is, there will be days when everything falls apart. You will oversleep. Emergencies will arise. Motivation will vanish. Despite your best intentions, hours will be wasted. This is normal. This is human. The question is not whether you will have bad days, but how you will respond to them. The worst response is to give up entirely. Some people take one bad day as evidence that they cannot manage their time, that systems do not work for them, that they are just not the kind of person who can be productive. One failure becomes an excuse for abandoning all effort. This is catastrophic thinking, and it is completely irrational. One bad day does not mean you are a failure any more than one good day means you have mastered time management. Progress is never linear. There will always be ups and downs. What matters is the overall trajectory, not any single data point. The best response to a bad day is simple. Start again tomorrow. Do not beat yourself up. Do not spend hours analyzing what went wrong. Do not wait for motivation to return. Just start again. Follow your system as best you can. Take it 1 hour at a time. This resilience is what separates people who eventually succeed from people who stay stuck. Successful people fail all the time. They have bad days, bad weeks, bad months, but they keep going. They treat failure as information rather than identity. They adjust their approach and try again. Expect setbacks. Plan for them. Know that they are coming and that they do not mean anything about your potential or your worth. The only true failure is quitting entirely. As long as you keep starting again, you are moving forward. I also want to discuss something that can dramatically improve your time management: the power of routines. Routines are sequences of actions that you do the same way every time. Morning routines, evening routines, work routines, exercise routines. When you establish strong routines, you remove decision fatigue from large portions of your day. Decision fatigue is a real phenomenon. Every decision you make depletes a limited mental resource. By the end of a day filled with decisions, your willpower is exhausted and you are more likely to make poor choices, give in to temptation, and procrastinate on important tasks. Routines conserve decision energy by putting actions on autopilot. When your morning routine is established, you do not have to decide when to wake up, what to eat, whether to exercise, when to start work. You just follow the routine. This preserves mental energy for decisions that actually require thought. My morning routine is exactly the same every day. I wake at the same time, do the same exercises, eat the same breakfast, start work at the same time. This sounds boring, but it is actually liberating. I never waste energy deciding how to start my day. I never negotiate with myself about whether to exercise. The routine runs automatically and I save my decision-making capacity for things that matter. Building routines takes time. At first, following a routine requires effort and discipline. But as behaviors become habitual, they require less and less conscious attention. Eventually, your routine becomes nearly effortless. You do it without thinking, like brushing your teeth or driving a familiar route. The key is starting small and being consistent. Do not try to establish a complex routine all at once. Start with one or two behaviors and practice them until they are automatic. Then add more. Gradually, you build a comprehensive routine that structures your day without straining your willpower. Strong routines also create psychological safety. When you know what to expect, anxiety decreases. You are not constantly wondering what to do next or worrying about whether you will have time for important things. The routine takes care of it. This stability frees your mind to focus on higher-level concerns. I want to talk about how environment affects time management. Your physical environment has an enormous impact on how you use your time. An environment full of distractions leads to distracted behavior. An environment designed for focus leads to focused work. Think about where you typically spend your time. Is your workspace cluttered or organized? Is your phone within reach or out of sight? Are there screens constantly competing for your attention? Is the lighting conducive to focus? Is the temperature comfortable? These details matter more than you might think. I have experimented extensively with my work environment. I have tried working at home, in offices, in coffee shops, in libraries. I have tried working with music, without music, with background noise, in silence. I have tried different lighting, different seating, different desk arrangements. What I have learned is that small changes can have big effects. Putting my phone in another room reduces distractions dramatically. Working in a clean, organized space helps me think more clearly. Having water and healthy snacks within reach prevents unnecessary breaks. Using good lighting reduces eye strain and fatigue. You may not have complete control over your environment, especially if you work in an office or shared space, but you probably have more control than you think. You can wear headphones, you can adjust your workspace, you can choose where to sit, you can set boundaries about interruptions. Even small modifications can significantly improve your focus and productivity. Also consider your digital environment. Your computer and phone are environments too. Are they set up to support focus or to enable distraction? How many apps on your phone compete for your attention? How many tabs do you typically have open? How often do notifications interrupt your work? I have aggressively simplified my digital environment. I have deleted most apps from my phone. I keep my desktop clean. I use website blockers to prevent mindless browsing. I have turned off almost all notifications. These changes reduce the pull of digital distraction and make it easier to stay focused on what matters. Your environment shapes your behavior more than your intentions do. If you want to change how you use your time, change your environment to support the behaviors you want. Make the right choice the easy choice. Make distractions harder to access. Design your surroundings to pull you toward productivity rather than away from it. Let me share some thoughts on the relationship between time management and meaning. So far, I have focused mainly on productivity, on getting more done with your hours. But productivity is not the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is a meaningful life, and meaning requires more than efficiency. A meaningful life includes productive work, but it also includes rest, play, connection, reflection, and experiences that have nothing to do with output. If you optimize solely for productivity, you might accomplish a great deal while feeling empty inside. You might check every box on your to-do list while missing what really matters. This is why I emphasized earlier that protecting time is not just about protecting time for work. It is about protecting time for all the things that make life worth living. Time with family and friends, time for exercise and health, time for hobbies and interests, time for rest and recovery, time to do nothing at all. I know people who are incredibly productive but deeply unhappy. They have optimized their schedules for maximum output, but forgotten to include the activities that give life meaning. They are efficient but unfulfilled. They accomplish goals but feel no satisfaction. Do not make this mistake. Yes, use your time well. Yes, be intentional about your hours. Yes, protect your schedule from waste and distraction. But remember why you are doing this. You are not trying to become a productivity machine. You are trying to live a good life. And a good life includes much more than work. As you think about how to spend your 24 hours, ask yourself not just what is productive, but what is meaningful. What activities make you feel alive? What relationships fill you with joy? What experiences would you treasure? What would you regret not doing? Include these things in your protected time. They are not less important than work. They might be more important. The goal of time management is not to squeeze the maximum output from every hour. The goal is to ensure that your hours add up to a life you are proud of, a life of accomplishment, yes, but also a life of connection, growth, joy, and meaning. I want to close with a perspective on time that I find both humbling and motivating. It is the perspective of mortality. We do not like to think about death. It is uncomfortable. It is frightening. We push it to the edges of our consciousness and go about our days as if we will live forever. But we will not live forever. Each of us has a limited number of hours on this earth. We do not know how many. It could be decades. It could be much less. What we know for certain is that our time is finite, and every hour that passes is an hour that will not return. This reality can be paralyzing if you dwell on it too much, but it can also be clarifying. When you remember that your time is limited, you stop wasting it on things that do not matter. You stop postponing the important things indefinitely. You stop living as if there will always be more time tomorrow. There is a practice called memento mori, which means remember that you will die. It sounds morbid, but practitioners find it liberating. Remembering death helps you appreciate life. It helps you focus on what truly matters. It helps you live with urgency and intention instead of drifting through your days. I do not think about death constantly. That would be unhealthy. But I do try to remember, especially when I am tempted to waste time or postpone something important, that my hours are numbered, that every day is an opportunity that will not come again, that the time I have is all the time I will ever have. This perspective has helped me say no to things that do not matter. It has helped me prioritize relationships over achievements. It has helped me pursue meaningful work instead of just profitable work. It has helped me live more fully, with less regret. You do not have forever. None of us do. The hours you have today are precious. They are irreplaceable. They are the raw material of your life, the only life you will ever have. Use them well. What will you do with your next hour? The choice is yours. It has always been yours. No one else can live your life. No one else can spend your time. You are the author of your days, the architect of your hours, the master of your schedule. The principles I have shared today are tools. They are powerful tools, but tools alone accomplish nothing. What matters is what you do with them. What matters is whether you take action or let another day slip away unchanged. You have everything you need to transform how you use your time. You have the knowledge, you have the understanding, you have the 24 hours that everyone else has. What you do next is up to you. I hope you choose wisely. I hope you start now. I hope you look back someday and see a life well lived, a life where your hours added up to something meaningful, where your days built towards something lasting, where your time was invested rather than spent. That life is possible. That life is waiting for you. All you have to do is claim it 1 hour at a time. Start now. Your future self is counting on you. Let me share a few more practical strategies that can make an immediate difference in how you manage your time. The first is what I call the 2-minute rule. If a task takes less than 2 minutes to complete, do it immediately. Do not add it to your to-do list. Do not schedule it for later. Just do it now. This rule prevents small tasks from piling up and becoming overwhelming. Responding to a quick email, putting something away, making a brief phone call, these things take almost no time to do, but take up mental space if left undone. By handling them immediately, you keep your mind clear and your list short. The 2-minute rule also creates momentum. Completing even small tasks gives you a sense of progress. You feel productive, which makes you want to keep being productive. Small wins lead to bigger wins. Of course, you have to be careful not to let 2-minute tasks fill your entire day. The rule applies to genuinely quick tasks that arise naturally, not to an excuse for avoiding important work. If you find yourself constantly doing small tasks to avoid big ones, that is procrastination dressed up as productivity. Another powerful technique is called eating the frog. The idea is simple. Identify the most difficult or unpleasant task you need to do that day and do it first thing in the morning. Get it out of the way before anything else. Most people do the opposite. They start with easy tasks to warm up and save the hard stuff for later. But later their energy is depleted and their willpower is weakened. The hard task keeps getting pushed back until it does not get done at all. When you eat the frog first, You tackle the hardest thing when your resources are fresh. You also eliminate the dread that hangs over you all day when an unpleasant task is waiting. Once it is done, everything else feels easier by comparison. You have momentum, confidence, and relief. I try to eat my frog before I check email or take any meetings. Whatever task I am most tempted to avoid, that is the first thing I work on. It is uncomfortable, but the relief of having it done early in the day is worth the discomfort. Another strategy is to create artificial deadlines. Parkinson's law states that work expands to fill the time available for its completion. If you give yourself a week to finish a task, it will take a week. If you give yourself 2 hours, it will take 2 hours. Most people set generous deadlines because they want to avoid stress. But generous deadlines actually create more stress, not less. The task hangs over you for longer. You have more time to procrastinate. The work itself tends to be lower quality because you never feel the pressure to focus. Tight deadlines create focus. When you know you only have 2 hours, you cannot afford to waste time. You cut out the unnecessary parts. You make decisions quickly. You get the essential work done. I set artificial deadlines for almost everything. Even if I have a week to complete something, I tell myself I need to finish it in 2 days. This creates urgency that keeps me focused and productive. Of course, artificial deadlines only work if you treat them seriously. If you know you are just making them up, the urgency will not feel real. One way to make them stick is to create external accountability. Tell someone else your deadline. Promise to deliver by a certain time. Put something at stake so that missing the deadline has consequences. Let me talk about another aspect of time management that people often overlook: the importance of saying no to yourself. We talk a lot about saying no to other people's requests, but often the biggest drain on our time is ourselves. Our own impulses, our own distractions, our own tendency to do what feels good instead of what is good. You need to learn to say no to the part of yourself that wants to check your phone for the 15th time. No to the part that wants to take another break. No to the part that wants to start something new instead of finishing what you started. No to the part that wants to stay up late watching videos instead of getting enough sleep. This is self-discipline, and it is the foundation of all time management. No system or technique will save you if you cannot control your own impulses. Conversely, if you have strong self-discipline, almost any system will work. Building self-discipline is a gradual process. You start by winning small battles. You resist one temptation, then another. Each victory strengthens your willpower muscle. Over time, what used to require enormous effort becomes relatively easy. But self-discipline is also a depletable resource. You can wear it out through overuse. This is why environment design is so important. When you remove temptations from your environment, you do not have to rely on willpower to resist them. You are not saying no to yourself because the temptation is not there in the first place. Think of self-discipline and environment design as complementary strategies. Use environment design to reduce the number of temptations you face. Use self-discipline to handle the temptations that remain. Together, they make it much easier to stay on track. I want to address a question that comes up often. How do you manage time when you have responsibilities you cannot control? Many people feel that their time is not really their own. They have demanding jobs, family obligations, health issues, or other constraints that limit their freedom. This is a legitimate challenge. Not everyone has the luxury of designing their ideal schedule. Some people have little discretion over how they spend their hours. For them, the advice to protect your time and set boundaries may feel unrealistic. But even within severe constraints, you usually have more control than you think. You may not be able to change your work hours, but you can control how you use your commute. You may not be able to skip family obligations, but you can control how present you are during them. You may not be able to add hours to your day, but you can eliminate activities that drain time without adding value. The key is to focus on what you can control rather than what you cannot. Yes, there are constraints. Yes, there are demands you cannot refuse. But within those constraints and around those demands, there are choices. And those choices, made consistently over time, can still add up to significant progress. Also remember that constraints are often temporary. Your current situation may be demanding, but it will not last forever. Children grow up, jobs change, circumstances evolve. The habits you build now will serve you when you have more freedom later. And the mindset you develop, the belief that your time matters and deserves protection, will stay with you regardless of circumstances. I have one more concept to share, and it is perhaps the most important of all. It is the concept of compound growth applied to time. You have probably heard of compound interest in finance. A small amount of money, invested consistently over time, grows into a large sum because of the magic of compounding. Each year's growth builds on the previous year's growth, creating exponential rather than linear results. The same principle applies to how you use your time. Small improvements, made consistently, compound into massive changes. 1 hour per day spent learning adds up to 365 hours per year. Over a decade, that is 3,750 hours, enough to achieve mastery in multiple fields. 1 hour per day spent exercising transforms your health over years and decades. 1 hour per day spent on your most important project can build a business, write a book, develop a skill that changes your life. Conversely, 1 hour per day wasted compounds into massive losses. 365 hours per year of mindless scrolling. 3,250 hours per decade of watching your life pass by. The opportunity cost is staggering. This is why daily habits matter so much more than occasional efforts. A hero effort once in a while does little compared to small, consistent efforts every day. The person who exercises for 30 minutes daily will always beat the person who exercises for 3 hours once a week. The person who reads for an hour every day will always learn more than the person who binges books occasionally. Compound growth means that the direction of your daily habits matters more than their size. A small good habit compounded over years produces extraordinary results. A small bad habit compounded over years produces extraordinary waste. The choice you make today about how to spend your hour might seem insignificant, but multiply that choice by thousands of days and it becomes one of the most significant choices of your life. This is why I am so passionate about time management. It is not just about being more productive today. It is about building a life. Your daily choices about time are the building blocks of your future self. Every hour spent well is an investment that will pay dividends for years to come. Every hour wasted is an opportunity cost that can never be recovered. When you understand compound growth, time management stops being about squeezing more tasks into your day. It becomes about making choices today that your future self will thank you for. It becomes about planting seeds that will grow into forests. It becomes about building, day by day, the life you want to live. What seeds will you plant today? The choice, as always, is yours. You have the same 24 hours as everyone else. What makes the difference is what you do with them. I have given you principles. I have given you strategies. I have given you frameworks and techniques and perspectives, but none of it matters unless you act. Start now, not tomorrow, not next week, not when you feel ready. Now, pick one thing, just one thing, and do it. That is how transformation begins. Not with grand plans or perfect systems, with one action, then another, then another. Your time is waiting. Your future is waiting. Your best self is waiting. Do not keep them waiting any longer. Go, make your hours count, and become the person you were always meant to be.